Hello and welcome back for episode 4 of the Supreme Golf Solutions webinar series, where we'll be continuing to cover products, metrics, solutions, and best practices that'll help you uncover hidden opportunities and maximize revenue at your course or club. Today, we have a special guest. I have one of the co-founders of Supreme Golf Solutions with me here today, and Dan Cortez, who's one of, if not the foremost retail expert in the golf space. So really, thanks for joining me today, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I hope to remotely live up to that billing.
Yeah, now so that I've pumped you up, can you tell us a little about your history in the golf space and how you've become the retail guru for everyone?
Sure. So I've been in the green grass space, obviously, since I was a kid. Started in the cart barn. Started to develop a retail model when I was dealing with brick and mortar retail outlets in the golf world. Took over retail for one of my former companies, one of the larger MCOs in the industry, and built a model that was easy to utilize, put everybody on the same page. And I'm happy that it's been in use at over 600 properties in the green grass world, everything from resort to daily fee to MCO to private clubs, you name it.
That's awesome. There aren't too many things that are north of 600 courses in use all over the place. So that's really cool. So again, thanks for joining us today. So if you've been a fan so far, you've known that we've covered Supreme's partnership with PGA Tee Times, with PGA of America's technology provider for that website on the first episode. And the second episode, we've covered some best practices of how you as an operator can get started down the road of customer data collection, what to do with it, what's important there. So if you haven't checked those videos out yet, please do so on our YouTube channel. Just jump back out. You can watch the first 2 episodes. And while you're there, if you would, to get notifications on future releases and new content, please hit that subscribe button below, and you'll be the first to know when we drop new episodes. So without further ado, let's jump into the show. And today's episode, we're going to dig into all things retail, as you may have guessed from Dan being here. As we've experienced as operators, really, unless you're a premier resort destination, retail can be kind of the redheaded stepchild in terms of actual time that we put into a task and the return we get from it. So we're going to cover exactly what you need to look at and consider so you can quickly get to brass tacks on your buying plan. And if it's overwhelming you or you're short on time, Supreme has a robust retail reporting and buyers program available that encompasses all of the metrics and best practices we're going to cover today. So just some quick business. As you know from prior episodes, Supreme Golf Solutions is your one-stop provider for all things back of house. Our goal is really to provide you with data and insight to your club's performance, being quickly reviewed and acted upon over a cup of coffee. We help you organize your tee sheet, retail data into a few proprietary reports we've developed for our experiences, successes, and failures over the years. And we focus on 4 key areas, being revenue management, increasing the visibility of your tee sheets, using data to make pricing decisions, distribution, increasing the visibility of your tee sheets out in the digital marketplace while keeping your acquisition costs to a minimum. Our products there include the Supreme Golf Marketplace, as well as Golf Book, Barstool Sports, Golf Digest, and our technological partnership with PGA Tee Times. One of our other favorite products out there is subscription. Our subscription model provides you the ability to implement a cutting-edge revenue program, builds loyalty, and brings evergreen recurring revenue to the club while helping you fill those hard-to-cover areas in the tee sheet. And last but not least, retail. Without further ado, we're going to dig into right now. So Dan, as I alluded to earlier, retail is one of those things for most operators that gets kind of shelved for later if we run out of time or those sorts of things in the course of the day. Emergencies pop up, and because it doesn't really make or break most clubs unless they're a premier resort destination. But in your experience, what are some of the reasons to take time to review one's retail strategy on a regular basis?
Well, the first piece is cash. With the amount of inventory in most shops, especially given short margin products like golf bags that, are slow moving, chew up a lot of cash. Really, cash is the first component that we want to make sure that a club isn't overspending in the shop, especially in very slow moving product types.
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to, the need for retail metrics, all the systems, point of sales that we utilize within our industry are good from a basic reporting perspective, but they're not particularly interactive and they're not really actionable. The raw data is there, or as what we've created is they're not opinion based. It's all data pulls directly from the system, and it's just compiling them into basically what a retailer, a brick and mortar retailer would be looking at from a reporting perspective that explains, my margins, my turns, my units sold. It kind of removes a lot of the opinions that exist a lot in the green grass space. This is all data driven. Again, it's metrics that are not available through most of our point of sales.
That's awesome. And of course, it's, there's garbage in, garbage out component there, and to how you manage your inventory within the POS, and without universal POSs, like some MCOs have, that gets tough too. And as you said, there's a lot of gut feel and relationships that drive some of these decisions instead of the actual data on the margins and performance plans. So that's kind of where we can come in to help as Supreme Golf Solutions. All right, that's all good information. I hope we've already convinced some operators that they need to dig in just from that information. But say as an operator, I'm taking your advice, and I've decided to take my retail seriously now, but really want to get straight to the heart of the matter that really makes a difference right away. What are some of the metrics, Dan, that you've taken a look at over the years that would fit that bill?
First thing you go to is turn. So the current on-hand inventory, does it line up with your sales? Is your inventory turning at a proper rate? Because the slower the turn, obviously the lower the margin, liquidation process, all the things that go into turning your inventory back into cash and utilizing it in other ways. So, we go through average retail per unit sold, average cost per unit sold, especially on the apparel side, which will tell us really what the consumer's willing to pay. I have had a lot of conversations over the years about clubs that believe that their consumers are much more high end than they are.
Sure.
Everybody likes a Mercedes for 10,000, but Mercedes doesn't make one.
Good point.
So if your consumer likes, probably not the right business decision. I still go back to, there's a difference between private clubs, public clubs, resorts, and the margin expectations. But the on-hand, the turn, setting sell-through, that's the first real piece to it. The rest of it is more data-driven, but at the same time, how much inventory do I currently have? How much should I have? What's my initial order look like? And all of this was built in really to create the communication better between the club and the sales reps, so that the meetings are about solutions, what's working, what isn't, instead of how much am I going to buy. That's really already been established with the min max, which is really the fairway.
Sure.
So we took, what used to be a very slow process. There was a lot of negotiating back and forth, and we just said, okay, here's your data, here's what's happening, here's what you want to happen. Let's reestablish, really what the expectation is, and then make sure that the rep and the vendors that we're dealing with understand the expectation.
Perfect. Establishing the service that you needed to provide, and then getting everybody else on board to agree to those parameters, and then maximizing what you can within the fence of what service you want to provide is perfect. So having said all of that, let's take a quick look at a sample of our SGS retail reporting tool. And Dan, why don't you take us a quick spin through here, show us where those metrics live on this report. Obviously some of this is going to be beyond what your POS is capable of providing. And what are you looking at as an operator when we flip this to you once a month?
So the template starting in the top right-hand corner, trailing 12 history, that's, the kind of the 30,000 foot view, very generic from, sales, cost of goods sold, percentage and margin. As we move to the top left part of the screen and we get into targets, we can establish, between a 5 to 8% growth year over year on the sales side. We'll baseline cost of goods sold, some of which is already getting pulled over, and that's acceptable from the trailing 12 history. Some we need to kind of reestablish. All of those things create a target max and a target min. So max being in season, min being out of season. And then as it reflects against the on hand, the current on hand. Anything under the min will flag in green, and anything over the max will flag in red. So it's just for quick reference. And then the turn expectation is really part of the initial build of what we want the inventory to look like. Back to, is it a material profit center? Is it a member amenity? All of those are pieces that we build in on the initial side. Compliance, that as a category is really around the core vendors, which I'll speak to in just a second. And then the on-hand months. That's how much product they currently have in months that's already on hand against the trailing 12 sales. All of these pieces will change month to month. With each new report, the template will take all of those pieces into account. So that's the high level view. The top right part of the page is really the 30,000 foot view. The sales and margin targets get us down into about 15,000 feet. And then you go into sales info specific to categories and vendors. So for this particular property in the last 12 months, 522 units on the Adidas apparel side, versus what the current on hand is, the average cost per unit sold, retail per unit sold. And again, this is far more granular, and this plays out for every category, from bags to gloves to footwear to men's and ladies apparel, headwear, so on and so forth. This is just an example of what the men's apparel side of it, or the men's tops side, I should say, looks. Then we get into the par level to the right. Really what this does is it establishes the percentage of each category and assigns to a vendor. In this case, Adidas golf apparel is 30%, which creates a max of 18,000 and a min of right around 9,000. Again, this is all part of the initial build. The clubs can modify this. The template's very easy to work within. And there's nothing that the clubs have to do
Right.
with this. Once it's set up, whether we can pull it ourselves or the club sends it to us, populates it. So there's nothing that the club has to do. This isn't a system to where the clubs have to go in and add all of this information. We take care of all of it with simple data points from the club. But as in this example of the par level, not only is this club getting a copy of this, but the vendor is as well. So the Adidas apparel rep that will get a copy of this will see they're materially under what the min level should be on a product that's 7.2% of sales and 7.5% in net. So it's a very fast moving, high velocity, strong margin product. So they know that they need to reorder back into that fairway, so to speak.
Exactly. So we're using this report to sort of maximize the space in our shop. We're looking at velocity, we're looking at margins, what products to pick, what services we're providing to members. And so this is really helping to maximize our revenue. But as we know, in this world, that's only half of the equation, and the other half is cost. Sometimes you can't do much as a small operator in terms of your buying power or command of the various providers in this space. So, Dan, why don't you walk us through the buying plan, the Supreme Buying Program that we have, who's participating, and maybe what some of the benefits are there?
Yeah, some of the biggest benefits that I found over the years is obviously purchasing is all predicated on scale. The more you purchase from any particular vendor, the better the deal is. Well, as we colonize properties away from, I own one course and I don't do a whole lot in retail. I'm at the mercy of the vendor programs to do business. And in some cases, those programs really aren't in line with what my goals are. So with all of our stuff, because these clubs, anybody that was onboarded is immediately a part of a very scaled business. You get the benefit from a whether it's an off-invoice product pricing, to ancillary range ball programs, things like that. So, really our goal with all of this is to allow the clubs when they become a part of it to immediately get the benefit of being a scaled partner.
Sure.
Um, right now we have properties within the portfolio that range from 40,000 a year in sales to over 3 million. And even the largest properties are a very small percentage of what the green grass purchasing space is. They may think that they're scale, but when you put a $3 million property together with a $30 million business, it becomes very material. So everybody's part of the grand game. Everybody gets the benefit of it. And there's virtually nothing that the clubs have to do past the initial point of onboarding. There's no additional credit apps. There's nothing like that. We actually move everything ourselves to the new program.
That's awesome. Very little input required from the operators. So, in terms of cost, is there any cost, and how does an operator get started in the program?
The operator gets started basically with the agreements that we have out there. As alluded to in past webinars, we are the back of the house. That's really from a golf perspective, green fee, card fee, membership, F&B, you name it. We're really the group that collects data, supplies the clubs with it, helps them make decisions. So with anybody that wanted to sign on for retail is a component and one of the parts of what our overall program package is worth and how that works. So, contact obviously either you or myself or someone else within the Supreme Golf Solutions family. And there, like I said, there's very little friction. The club needs to just send us a couple of reports. Everything will get built from there. And then, we go over it with each property, we have it built, and away we go. The whole process from beginning to end takes it can go as fast as a club wants to. If somebody calls us on Friday and says I want to go live on Monday, that can be accomplished. So this is the other thing we really want to stress is this isn't forcing anybody to do anything. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, are you telling me what I can and can't do? That's never the goal. We have a core group of vendors that are obviously the most robust programs, but we do have relationships with other vendors that wouldn't be considered 80 to 90% of the current market share. So this is very customizable. It's another data set, and it's another piece of what Supreme Golf and the solution side and what we're looking to do for the industry.
That's awesome. And as Dan alluded to, if you want more information, our contact information's up here on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to jump on the phone, answer an email for additional questions, or even discuss in detail how we might be able to help partner and find a solution for your course or club. So with that having been said, that's going to end our webinar for today. Dan, many thanks for taking the time to join me today. Please join us next time when we'll launch a series of episodes on revenue management. It's a subject and matter that's really near and dear to my heart. And really, we'll start with weather and why that's the baseline to really what we do as revenue managers from the top, and start to uncover what metrics really should be driving your pricing decisions. And from there, take a look at things like dynamic pricing, subscription, other alternative revenue products that can really start driving the top line as we move into a season where we all have high expectations, but also are maybe even a little apprehensive of what the end of COVID looks like for golf. Golf's been a tremendous benefactor of that issue in terms of driving folks to our courses and clubs. And as some of those folks go back to work, we have some things to think about as the season goes on. So we're here to help navigate those uncertain waters. So again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Be the first to know when we drop new episodes. And with that, we'll end today's session. And thanks for viewing.